Maybe I'll back off of that idea. If I have more confidence.
Can you hear me now?
Yep. Yes, thank you, Jack.
Okay. Now 6 p.m.
Like a cup of coffee.
Start the regular meeting of the Ojai Valley Sanitary District.
Cup of coffee.
Allison, do you have any remote attendees from our board?
None under the AB 2449-2302. They're all, both are on alternate public locations, so their locations were posted.
Okay. And so is there any?
Need approval.
We're good then. Thank you. In that case, let's please lead me, sorry, lead me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, indivisible, liberty and justice for all. Okay, are there any additions or amendments to the agenda, Scott?
Did you want to do a roll call just so we have a record of?
Oh, I'm sorry. Yes, please.
Director Kentosh? Jack, I'm doing roll call. Jack, I'm doing roll call.
I'm here.
Okay, perfect. Director Martinson? Director Reed? Director Quillisi?
Here.
Director Burke?
Here.
And Director Ulrich?
Here. Okay, thank you. No additions or amendments to the agenda, is that correct? Public concerns, items not on the agenda. Public with us, any public concerns?
Yeah.
I don't hear any response to that. We are now on the consent items. Consent items are considered in a single motion and voted on without discussion. Any item removed from the consent list at the request of a board member or the public will be considered immediately following approval of the remaining consent items. Now,
I have a question. Can I ask a question without pulling something off you?
yes, Director.
I have a question for Allison. I noticed that one of the customers here is some kind of a kitchen or a downstairs or a EU where he's not supposed to be preparing food. So he's had it, rather than pay the additional connection fees, he's agreeing to allow inspection at any time for make sure that he doesn't have a dishwasher or he's not preparing food down there. The first time I've ever seen that. Can you explain how that works?
A cease violation agreement indicates that a homeowner has removed the components that constituted the violation. So in this particular instance, it would be the food preparation area. So any cooking appliance, refrigerator, like if there's a full-size refrigerator, we'll allow them a small refrigerator because you could theoretically have to keep medication in there. So we have some leeway in that regard. Any sink, etc. So it can essentially needs to have nothing that resembles a kitchen. Our code specifically indicates what we define as a food preparation area. So they remove all of those components. They allow us to come in and inspect. We take pictures to document that they have removed the source of the violation. And then they sign an agreement that basically says if those components are reinstalled, that they are their violation remedy is predetermined, so their only option is to purchase the required capacity at that point. And it is recorded against the property, advising any subsequent owner, parties of interest, tenant, et cetera, that reinstallation of that will constitute a violation and that space is not permitted as a second, third, or otherwise habitable dwelling. So in this particular case, it was a second and third habitable dwelling. So they've remedied the violation and signed the agreement, essentially stating that they will not violate again. Our code also has heightened fines for violations of the same kind by the same parties multiple times. So essentially, all of those things are explained to any homeowner that enters into this agreement.
Well, thank you for the.
Okay. Any other comments? Any motion? I'll entertain a motion for consent items.
Item.
I'll second the motion to approve 6, 7, and 8.
We have a motion and a second for approval of the consent items 6, 7, and 8. Allison, please take roll.
Director Kentoff,
Yes.
Director Curtis,
Yes.
Director Martinson,
Yes.
Director Reed, Director Quillisi,
Yes.
Director Berg,
Yes.
and Director Ulrich.
Yes.
All right. Now we're entering, we're completing a public hearing. Item 9 is the continuation of an administrative appeal to the Board of Directors pursuant to OVSD Code Regulations Section 917 at, what does that mean? Sequence?
I'm following.
Oh, and following, okay. Um, Would someone like to summarize? Apparently, we've covered all the points of the public hearing items A through F back in October. And during that session, we allowed the homeowner to bring additional information that supported his presentation that evening. And from what I hear, he has not responded with any further information. Is there anything I'm missing there?
No, that's correct. So Allison has reached out to the appellate. He has not responded with anything. And so it's now moving forward. It'd be appropriate for the board to consider closing the public hearing and then deliberating about the case.
Dennis, anything?
No, that's, I think it was continued last time to give the appellant the opportunity to present information. Both cases had already been presented, so I believe the board had actually started deliberating on it. Wrap it up now, or
And continued it, but we still have to allow public comment.
Okay, that being the case, we will now close the public meeting. I'm sorry, did I miss something?
if there's any public that wants to comment on it, we can allow that.
Oh, I'm sorry. Is there any public comment regarding item 9 on our agenda tonight?
Raised hands out there?
They're both on mute.
I don't see anything. Okay, with no response to that question, we'll now close the public hearing at 6:08 p.m.
Do we actually open it or do we need to even open it?
Oh,
Just deliberation.
Okay, so now we will not, we will enter into the deliberation section process. Are there any comments from the board would further deliberate this question?
I had actually prepared a short statement, but since the appellant is not here today and then no new information was presented, I'm not inclined to give it. If you guys insist.
He didn't know you had it.
Now you know.
Okay, this is a deliberation, and I don't recall if we took a show of hands or verbal yea or nay regarding supporting the general manager.
We continued the item, so we never did a vote.
Sorry, can we have just a kind of a brief summary of what the issue this is? So that we
Scott, can you
remember what we're doing?
Yeah, so I'll give it. So the applicant, Todd Merriman and his wife Patricia, built a detached ADU. It was not permitted through the district. We came in, we had notice of it. They came in and applied for it. They are contending that in the conversations I had with him, he contended that our ADU clauses were, I have to dive into exactly. He questioned the ADU clauses or the ADU requirements.
Functionality, is that was the question? Yeah, 747 square foot, construction. What were the opposing proportionality?
There was a question on proportionality, and our code gives us the ability to look at it proportional either by square footage or by either square footage or by fixture unit counts. We've chosen fixture unit counts.
Long ago.
And long ago, and that was in essence that was his question is could it be done with fixture unit counts or square footage as a proportionality? And the answer is it can be, but we have chosen to use fixture unit counts. And so according to our rules that we already have established, I took a look at his case and I did not find in his favor. I found that he was responsible according to our rules by capacity charges based off of fixture unit counts.
Did we, as a district, require him to build a separate line to connect to our federal or trunk? Does he tie into his existing?
He's able to tie in to his existing line.
Never raised that as an issue.
I think well, Dennis and I are still debating that, but my sense of this is the ruling that was made at the time is consistent with our. I don't have any problem. I think that was correct. I do think our ordinance are inconsistent with the current ADU codes. And if you go to 66324, and I know there's some other same variations of it, but it clearly states no ADU doesn't differentiate between ADUs created within an existing space or detached. It just says no ADU may be considered new for the purposes of calculation of fees. It's very straightforward. It says that directly. It said that multiple times.
If you go back and look at the state law now, 66324 is not there.
Well, there's a
It's not in the government code
there's
anymore.
a current
It's
version of
the
it.
current version of it.
They've renumbered it, but it says the same.
However, the new number.
It's 66311.5 now.
It says exactly the same thing, the word verbatim. So again, I don't have any problem with what Scott did, his determination at the time. I think, as we talked about in the past, maybe that we need to have an ordinance committee get together, go through these ADU rules that are current, understand if we're still
Absolutely.
in compliance with.
We need to be current with state law.
In my opinion, it appears as though we are not, based on that very simple statement, at the very beginning of that code. It does grant two exceptions, one of which is if you, for whatever reason, the district required a new and separate connection to the lateral, not using their existing home connection. We can apply fees for that connection.
They're messing with our main, yeah.
And the other one is if it's built in conjunction with a primary residence. In other words, I call that the vacant lot. Vacant lot, you build a house, you build an ADU, you can charge those fees. But otherwise, it just says no ADU may be.
So new or conversion is no longer,
By that rule, there's no differentiation between a conversion. It just says no ADU.
However, that statute also says that if there's a separate standing ADU that's not a conversion, that district may require capacity charges or connection fees.
It doesn't say that. Read the rule. Read what it says.
It does.
That's why I was having, because what you said in your letter didn't match what the language in the code says.
You want me to read it?
Yes, read the code.
For an accessory dwelling unit that is not described in paragraph 1, just summarize, this is for an accessory dwelling unit that is not a conversion, detached, right? Put on my glasses. Connection may be subject to a connection fee or capacity charges that shall be proportionate to the burden of the proposed accessory dwelling unit based on either its square feet, the number of drainage fixture units. So.
Can I see that? Because that's not what I read today. I want to see what this is saying. This is 66313.
There's an issue about whether you connect directly to the main line or if you connect to the private lateral, should we waive those connection fees? As I read the statute, it says that the district may require you to attach the main line. If they do, you assess the capacity charges, but it doesn't say that if the district allows you to connect to the private lateral instead, that all of a sudden we waive the ability to charge those.
See, that's not.
Because the burden on the system is the same, whether you're.
And are we
connected to the main line
talking
or
about connection charges or are we talking about
capacity charge?
capacity units?
Capacity charge.
This is what I'm saying. I think I disagree with the interpretation. It says for an accessory dwelling unit that is not described in paragraph 1. Paragraph 1 describes attached. This paragraph goes to not attached, which would relate to this. The local agency or district may require a new or separate connection directly between the accessory dwelling and the utility. May. Consistent with that, the connection may then be subject to a connection fee or capacity charge that shall be proportionate to the thing. But it says may, and up above that, it says that you can't charge those fees unless a separate connection is required by the district. We didn't require that in this case.
Yeah,
That's the difference that I'm.
this change was put in effect because we have an option 1 and an option 2 for our decision tonight.
Right.
Option 1, affirm the general manager's July 23rd, 2025 ruling that the imposition of capacity fees was justified on the basis of applicable law and the facts. Or option 2, reverse the general manager's July 23rd, 2025 ruling that the imposition of capacity fees was justified on the basis of applicable law and the facts. I'm focusing on the date of the decision and how our bylaws were written, our ordinance was written at the time of the ruling. I don't know about, I'm not sure where we're going with this as far as considering these facts based on after the change was made. What's the board's feeling?
My sense is that what Scott did at the time the application was made, and when he reviewed it, his determination was compatible and in compliance with our district ordinances. And so I don't have a problem with what he did at the time. I think our ordinances are not in keeping with the current ADU. So while we're consistent within ourselves, we haven't kept up with the state codes. It's my feeling.
Okay, that's your feeling.
So that's the question I had to myself. Okay, well, where do I go with this? You know, if I support Scott, which I do, because that was correct under our ordinances at the time, I think the board has another issue, and that is we need to go back and review our ordinances.
I think
So,
that's
you know, what I was going to do for myself is, you know, I think most will vote in favor of, yes, we'll support Scott. He made the correct decision. I would be the dissenting vote and say no, only because I want a placeholder that says we need to look at our ordinances relative to these wording of these codes and just see if we're consistent.
I have a question for district council, if that's.
Yeah. Steve.
Typically, I read legislature.ca.gov a lot, because of other things I do. And typically at the end of each section of code, there is information about when that became effective.
I
Can
can
you
provide
tell me
some clarity on this.
66324 or 66311.5?
There's been 3 iterations of this statute. And they're all have the exact same language. So the language hasn't changed. The legislature keeps numbering and reorganizing to try to make it more readable and
Okay,
condense it. But substantively, nothing has changed since our ordinance was adopted. Our ordinance was submitted to the HCD and approved by the HCD. Now, these statutory sections have changed. The relevant language, they're just taking the same section and putting it in a new one. It reads exactly the same.
No, if I'm not, I did not attend the last board meeting when this came up. But I did watch the entire 3.5 hour video. So I saw the proceedings, and as I recall, was referred to you to the committee.
You might be referring to last meeting we had, and that was a different appellant. That was,
It was a different appellant, but
just wanted to make sure.
we
Yeah.
also refer
Yeah.
to the committee activity.
for this one, I don't believe so.
No, not for this one.
This one, we just continued the case, how the appellant to provide additional information in support of his appeal. So this is item number 9.
Item 9.
Okay. Then I would move, we approve option 1 on item number. That is affirming the general manager's decision.
I agree with that.
Okay, which
As
is-
I
Second?
Oh, second.
I believe the state law allows us to collect.
Second.
That's not the issue.
Because the sentence that Dennis read out, there's a sentence before that. So you read the sentence before that?
Okay, so for a non-conversion, district may require a new or separate utility connection directly between the accessory dwelling and utility. So may.
May require, but it doesn't force us to, and it doesn't say anything about whether or not we can charge a connection fee.
Consistent with section 66013, connection may be subject, doesn't say the new connection or the direct connection. The connection may be subject to a connection fee or capacity charge that would be proportionate and may be based on fixture units.
Well, I disagree with the.
Well,
wording of that.
here's the.
I think I do agree with you, Lowell. I do agree with you. We should parse this out in more detail because I have some other issues with our ADA more effectively in favor of support of option 1.
I'm hearing Lowell say he's not in favor.
I believe we have a motion and a second.
Give a motion and a
Motion and a second.
Made a motion, Jack second.
Is there any other discussion?
Call for the question.
With that being the case, Allison, please take roll on the motion and the second.
Director Kentosh,
Yes.
Director Curtis,
Yes.
Director Martinson,
No, and for the reasons I said.
Director Reed,
Yes.
Director Quillisi,
Yes.
Director Berg,
Yes.
and Director Ulrich.
Yes.
Okay, we have decided item 9. Thank you.
We have 3 and 4, which we, I guess,
I'm sorry.
essentially should have been in that vote. What do you want us to do, Dennis? Because it should have been 2, option 1, and 3 and 4 for that motion.
I'll change my motion to include option 1 under sub-item 2 and items 3 and 4. To issue a note of decision and inform the property. Is that okay, Jack?
Yes. Second, agreed.
Do the
Everybody-
paperwork.
everybody's vote.
Take the roll or?
Or can we just have anybody confirm if they're going to change their vote with that amended motion?
It's the amended motion.
Do the
Two.
paperwork.
2, option 1, and then 3 and 4, which is delivery of communication essentially.
And change them.
Everybody's trying to vote.
Okay, thank you for the clarification. And now we will Move ahead to item 10. Our chairman is here. Anything to add to this, Mr. Ulrich?
No,
Ulrich?
nothing to add.
Okay, are there any questions regarding board appointments?
Is there a list of them somewhere?
I think
It
Alice.
was, yeah.
Was it in the agenda?
Okay,
Yes, it's attached, and I'll happily email it out also to everyone.
okay, perfect. Thank you. All right, moving on to item 11, California Special Districts Association Board of Directors nominations for seat C. Do you have any directors who might be interested in being nominated, or do you have anyone in mind?
Does it have to be a director or could it be the general manager, for example?
It says candidates, so I suppose
It can be either.
be either. All right. Thank you, Jeff.
When it's been things like LAFCO or other things in the county, we generally put the burden on the general manager's shoulders to attend meetings if it becomes necessary. And if that's allowed, I would propose to nominate Scott Nextroff for that seat.
We don't have to nominate anybody.
No, we don't.
Right.
Don't ask if anybody wants it. There is a qualified candidate who's already wants to run for reelection, so
Oh, there is? Okay.
Oh, who is that?
you have to scroll through 100 pages.
Esperante, director from Moss Landing Harbor District. That is the incumbent that is
Oh,
seeking
that's
reelection.
Monterey Bay, Moss Landing.
And this does require at least three trips to Sacramento.
Mm-hmm.
We're not required to.
We're not required to.
It's just that we can. And so this is your opportunity to do that. If you had I served on that board for 9 years.
Trips to Sacramento.
Do you want it, Scott?
If you guys want me to be, I will take it. I will accept the nomination and strive to push forward.
And I have a motion from Director Quillisi. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Dr. Curtis, second. Okay, we do have a motion and a second. Any other discussion? Item 11.
I'm gonna hate to vote against Scott on this, but I think it's a long way to go for. It takes a lot of time and effort and energy to prepare yourself.
With the honor of the nomination.
The honor of winning out over Moss Landing. Even more.
Okay, Allison, would you please take roll?
Director Kentosh,
Yes.
Curtis,
Yes.
Director Martinson,
Yes.
Director Reed,
Yes.
Director Quillisi,
Yes.
Director Burr,
Yes.
and Director Ulrich.
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Moving to item 12, replacement of information technology equipment, 2 servers, 3 desktops, and 2 laptops. Cost $67,661.11. Budget adjustment number 2026-17. And we have
This is
more
the
information.
This is a policy we started years ago to keep our equipment up to date. So I would say approve it. I would make a motion to approve the.
I worked for Rockwell and for Computer Sciences and for Harris Corporation. In all those places, large companies and small. The policy was when the warranty runs out on a laptop or a server, then you change it because it's cheaper to change it than it is to get it repaired. And so it's a very solid policy. I'd be in favor.
I have a question. I guess for Yan. Are we following the
Yeah, we're following the,
retirement policy? Okay. And also the number is coming from what? This number, 67,000.
from Dell. This is directly from Dell.
I mean, is it in accordance with the state?
It's just part of the NASCO contract, yes. So it's part of the state
Okay,
contract.
thank you. So we have, oh, yes.
Your servers,
Depends on what they're gonna do. One is 25 and one is 15.
that's 40,000. I'm paying 27,000 for laptops and 3 desktops. I can guarantee you I can get them for 5.
I mean, you probably can,
So why are we paying $27,000 for a
because they're not gonna do the job that I need them to do.
laptop? What kind of a laptop you're talking? The most expensive one I'm aware of, like 25.
Get a laptop for $10,000 if you want to, but I think one of them is 5,400 and the other one's 2,500.
So there you've got a specific price. Positive.
One of them is for Dan. We'll engage with the network if need be. And the other one is a replacement for Scott's laptop.
Yeah, the network or PLC, SCADA network, VFDs, so it's, has a lot of uses.
I just went through this personally, and so I'm just stunned by the dollar amount, but you're obviously getting something that I wouldn't be getting for my house.
Well, just that, for the sake of discussion, we went through this about 15 years ago with the Ann and in line item, but we even got other bids and went through the whole thing, and that's where we came up with a suggested
Retention policy.
retention policy and also all the state guidelines and so on. So as long as those 2 conditions are met, according to our decision back then, we're okay. I know it sounds high. I was you 15 years ago.
You were me back then? Does that mean there's hope for me?
This would be a shocking number if it were a private business. Apparently, the firepower of these units are a lot higher. So did we have
Had a motion and a second. I have a motion from Director Curtis and a second from Director Quillisi.
And I have a question still.
okay?
I read the quote, it said it expires today. What are we doing with that? We contacted Dell to get an extension?
Dell has actually changed their policy. They used to provide 30-day quotes. They only do 14 now because the market is volatile and tariffs and all these other things that are constantly coming and going. And so we're going to place the order. If it gets approved tonight, we're going to place it tomorrow morning, and that should be fine.
Your majority of the components are imported, is that right?
Yes.
I wonder if there's any advantage to wait and see if this did.
I'm sure we'll get a refund.
They're not gonna, they're gonna go up. They're not gonna-
You can count on it.
We do have a motion.
We're
and
going
a
to try to play the market.
We do have a motion and a second for approval. Any other discussion? If not, Allison, please take roll.
Director Kentosh,
Yes.
Director Curtis,
Yeah,
Director Martinson,
Yes.
Director Reed,
Yes.
Director Quillisi,
Yes.
Berg,
Yes.
Director Ulrich.
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Item 13. Treatment plant fine screen, 24-inch sluice gate replacement. Contract 2025-01, change order number 2, budget adjustment number 2026-16. Can you generalize this, Scott?
Sure, if it please the board, can I have Liz give a presentation?
Sure.
So the board approved the purchase of a fine screen back in August of 2024. The fine screen is necessary to be ahead of our new filters. We just weren't getting the efficiency out of our old screen. Parts had broken, could not be replaced. The guys have to hand clean it, which fell apart. That was a 25-plus-year-old screen. We put it up for replacement. Board approved pre-purchasing it in August of 24. April of last year, board approved a contract with GSE to do the construction portion of that work. And the screen then arrived in September. But there were also some long lead items with some gates that took until early February for the mobilize inspection. And step one is isolating the screen structure. And unfortunately, the gate that we went to close did not isolate the screen structure. So that we needed isolated in order to swap the screen. And so we looked at a few different options. You know, do we just continue long-term bypass? Do we put in a plug? Replace the screen in kind? Do we put a valve in somewhere else? Can we even do that? And looking at all those options, speaking with the engineering team and with our operators, the most cost efficient / quick solution is to replace that sluice gate in kind. Reached out to Waterman and they happen to have one that matches the bolt pattern available off the shelf, which is kind of a miracle for us, saves us months. And so we have asked GSD to provide us a change order to replace the gate. And that's what this amounts to, in addition to the cost for us to bypass while the gate is being replaced.
And the purchase of the gate.
The purchase of the gate, which is by the contractor, yeah.
6,000.
Those screens are about 30 years old. They were put in when the plant was rehabbed in, I think it was 2016.
Yes.
Amazing. Any director comments on this item?
Just a question. Okay, I understand removing and replacing the gate. What do you do while you're removing and replacing the gate?
We have a bypass online. So that cost includes the cost of bypass, the estimated cost of bypass.
And if you installed and monitored a plug, which is a small number, you still have to remove and replace the gate.
At some
At
future
some point.
point. Yes, or if we opted to not do that, we would have to bypass every time we needed to bypass the screen structure, which would end up costing much more over the life of the gate. And then additionally, install and monitor plug. The more we talk to the construction firm and the engineering firm, they did not like that from a safety standpoint.
It said it's a safety concern. I'm wondering how that is.
The plug were to release, you could have an entrapment issue through working in the chimney or the screen structure.
So they'd be working in a chimney, in a dry chimney with a plug holding back 14 to 18-ish feet of raw sewage with a life jacket on down and it's nowhere where I would want to be.
That's a significant
That job, yeah.
There with your life jacket.
Not to mention if it were to fail overnight.
Right, if it failed overnight or like if we weren't there, it'd be a.
Okay. Any other questions from directors?
No, it seems well thought out. I'll make the motion.
Here we do have a motion, a second.
Second.
We have a motion and a second for item 13. Any other discussion? Okay, Allison, please take roll.
Director Kentosh,
Yes.
Director Curtis,
Yeah,
Director Martinson, Director Reed, Director Quillisi,
Yes.
Director Berg,
Yes.
Director Ulrich.
Yes.
Okay. To item 14. I have directions here to ask Scott to conduct the first reading by title only. Item C, roll call. So are we referring to reading item 14 and then
You just read the title of the ordinance, so you'll just start here.
Yep.
The section.
Proposed. So it's an statement of ordinance number OVSD 65, adopted on March 23rd of 2026. It's an ordinance adopting policies and procedures governing public project contracts, professional service contracts, the purchase of supplies, equipment, and services, and the disposal of surplus property.
okay. Being asked to amend ordinance OVSD 65.
Question.
I'm just gonna help you out by
Oh, go ahead and
asking
Jim.
you a question.
Yes.
Why are we doing this now?
Well, we had it reviewed at the ordinance committee. And I think we just got busy with other things during budget season last spring and continuing on. And this is the first time that I had an opportunity to bring it back. I think we brought it back last month and there was a mistitling of the rereading. So it's coming in this month for your consideration.
What surprises me is the magnitude of the increase. We're going from 15,000 to 75,000, going from 75 to 220. Doesn't that mean we're having a huge jump? I thought the numbers were going to be a little smaller. And it's not like we spend every board meeting going over 10 different board items where we're asking for too many things because our limit is too low. I kind of like getting nice updates from Liz on projects she's working on. So it's not all about ordinances and bureaucracy. It's also about keeping a plant running and keeping this facility going. What it really counts is where the wastewater is. And so I just wonder why are we doing this? I mean, are we spending too much time? I mean, I noticed that Liz signed her own staff report this month. You're able to delegate this stuff, which is a good thing. I congratulate you on that. But I guess I'm just a little skeptical.
I understand. It's if there was different numbers, I think that would be acceptable. I think an opportunity that came up, frankly, perhaps was this last board item that Liz just presented. By rule, we needed to come to the board for that. If it would have, depending on the numbers, that could have been an opportunity for the general manager to have given go ahead to the contractor a few weeks ago. And if they had that readily available and make that happen. That would have been an opportunity. It's different. So I'm with you. And if it's
Maybe we should hear from the ordinance committee.
Yeah, the ordinance
I
committee.
thought I was on it, but I said no.
We haven't met.
Okay, we've heard from one director. Any other comments on this?
Well, since this is bringing the ordinance into agreement with the Uniform Public Construction Cost Accounting Act, I don't have a problem directly with increasing the authority of the general manager to do these things. But I also agree with Director Kentosh that it's very informative to the board to hear about what's going on. And so if we could change the ordinance to say, yes, these are the new limits of authority, but the board still wants notification of things that used to require board approval, but no longer do at those levels, I'd be happy with that.
I think I'll add something. Is realistically, by virtue of the finances of the district are structured and that most of these funds come out of reserves, whereas the general manager would be authorized to sign these. The funding is not available. Very rarely would any of these be able to be funded operationally, so they would have to come to the board which at their earliest opportunity. And then the board has to understand that when these are approved, that essentially the funding of them is approved in connection. And so the approval of the funding is somewhat of a formality thereafter. So just be aware of that. Because if we've already authorized the work via like a change order or something to that effect, bringing the funding request to the board a month later or at the next board meeting is somewhat formality, not necessarily an option. If that makes sense. Because this would not be covered from operational funds at all. We don't have that kind of budget structure.
So we still have to approve moving reserve funds.
Correct. So a signed change order or a signed authorization would come before you, but the actual moving of the funds is still required by the board
So we'd get that notification in any case.
after the fact.
But if the board doesn't approve the move, then what happens? It seems that becomes a choke. If for some reason the board should get unhappy with expenditure. So
Allison,
that would be a lot like.
Yes.
Go ahead, Jack.
aren't those state numbers that come down from the state government?
They are for public contracting and purchasing, but we don't operate out of a general fund. And so therefore that does not mean the expenditure by budget structure is necessarily pre-approved. The way that your budget is structured, any major expenditure that is not budgeted for in the regular annual budget on a line item must be approved by a transfer from some sort of reserve into a major expender or operational fund.
Yeah,
And unexpected expenses of this dollar magnitude would not be able to be accommodated without board approval.
yeah. Well,
So-
good example of that is that valve was gonna cost $32,000.
Yes, Liz?
I think an example where this might apply might be our lining project, where we had, just rough numbers, we had $50,000 in credits due to certain things that were removed from the contract during construction. And we had a $50,000 add to increase the amount of project area that was lined. We added a line segment. And so that's something that instead of those change orders getting presented to the board, I would have been able to approve them. Now, that work was already done, so it was kind of a retroactive approval anyways. And we have a upcoming reconciliation for that project, but it's only $1,000. So still have a transfer coming before you, but it's small enough that the change orders don't have to come to you, I think.
So if we were to approve 14A through C, we would facilitate Scott's decisions would happen instantaneously based on his experience or advice from the staff. Then you would be brought to the board for approval of transfer. Is it here?
Yes.
Again, what happens if the board says no?
I'm not clear on that, because if Scott said yes to a contractor, would he then be able to move forward?
I think the contractor would be able to move forward if we had OVSD 65 approved as written, yes.
We really do have to consider that.
That's why I say we're forced into a position of a rubber stamp. I mean, we either need to change the rules around what the board, transfers between things, in which case we might as well just go home and quit even showing up, or it needs to be somehow inconsistent thing. But that's just me. I don't like being in the position of being told I have to do something. I have no choice.
Yeah,
Most times that's the case. A lot of what we do is rubber stamp. But occasionally there's going to be something that may come up. I don't know what it might be. I haven't seen anything in 5 years.
And if Scott signed a contract that had a clause in there saying pending transfer of reserve funds cover this cost, what does a contractor do with that? Wait?
Stick your hands in your. It's kind of like me saying, I'll buy that house repainting from you, and here's my check, but by the way, it's not going to clear the bank for another month. So you decide as a contractor, are you going to do the work or wait?
I'm gonna wait.
I have a question. Allison, do you have any knowledge of how long we've been operating at the lower levels of authority?
The last OVSD 65 was adopted in 2011.
So, my opinion is we really need to get current because of inflation. I mean,
Well, I understand that sentiment and I don't necessarily disagree, but is this, because the thresholds have increased per the state, because of inflation, whatever, are we required to change ours to match? Are we in any way required to do
I
that?
think so. It's just an
You
opinion.
can always have a lower level.
We could have a lower level if we so choose.
This may not be the agenda for adjusting those numbers. It sounds like we need to refer this to the Finance Committee. Is that what I'm hearing?
It's presented for a first reading, and then it would be a subsequent adoption as presented at the next meeting. So it would appropriately go to the ordinance committee if it warrants further discussion.
I'd like to clarify something.
Yes, Jack.
When we accepted the grants under the two Clean Water Act, for the rehab of the treatment plants, that included a proposition that we had to maintain them. We had to agree to that. We would maintain them. So that's why we have to really maintain on the treatment plants.
Are you saying, Jack, that Scott's hands are tied if he doesn't have the higher dollar amount approval?
Well, what
This is discretion.
do you realize that we spent this month $1,200,000? We wrote checks for that this month.
Chunk.
All small amounts, but it added up.
Allison, to clarify what you said, if we approve this tonight, it does go to the committee?
So this is presented with a red line version of the current. This is a first reading, so this is the first disclosure to the public, and correct me if I'm misstating. First disclosure to the public of what is being presented as is essentially acceptable. It will go in March for a second reading and adoption as presented. It will need to come either to an ordinance committee or a subsequent board meeting for their discussion, and then it'll be re-agendized for a first reading again and a second reading again until such time you end up with the final version. So first reading is really the presentation of what is proposed to be the final version. And so you can re-agendize it for discussion at a committee level and then put it back on a regular agenda for essentially what is hoped to be a first reading again and then subsequent adoption at the next meeting. But if there's further discussion or amendments, then I would say that an ordinance committee is the appropriate place so that we're not first reading it, discussing it, taking it off, putting it on as a first reading again, et cetera.
It's a two-step process. You introduce it, read it once, and then, anytime it changes, you have to go back and start over again.
And after a first reading, a notice of public hearing goes into the paper, notifying any interested party that essentially if they want to provide any written comment or appear at the actual adoption in opposition, it actually says when that will be. And so the process is fairly rigid. So you want to be confident that essentially that is what you're planning on adopting, because you may have public interest in that item because it is an ordinance.
Mm-hmm. The ordinance committee, you and I, and
All right.
Yes.
I think what we're talking about is threshold is this amount, the threshold is this amount. Is there a table somewhere that shows that? I've been looking.
it's just in the red line version of the ordinance.
We're H number in our.
There was a two and more section.
Page 245. Only goes 817.
So you're on part 1 and part 2.
There's part 2 of it packet.
There's another part.
Part 2. I guess I didn't. That's why I'm not finding it. I didn't. Oh, that's. That. Okay.
Whether we pass this or don't pass it, I think we still have contractual problem. As I recall reading the listing of our funds, a number of those funds are required by state law. You can't just move all that money into our general fund and stop worrying about it. And so those transfers from reserve funds into major expenditure accounts require board approval. No way to get around that. And so we let Scott go ahead and sign a contract and hang there until we move the money? Or do we make him sign a contract that says pending transfer of reserve funds to cover this contract? That would make a contractor wait until the transfer is approved. Whereas the other way, Scott's hanging out. I don't think that's a very good idea.
I guess my vote might be contingent on what are the changes to the thresholds. I see what their new numbers are, but I don't know what the old. Is there some table somewhere that shows those?
If you look
Because
at,
for instance, if the threshold changes by $5,000, I don't care for it. If it changes by 300,000, as he was mentioning, and then I don't like it. So, but I don't know what the changes, relative changes are. I see a table that shows those.
it starts on page 248, the red line version. Paragraph 3.2.1 changes 15 to 75.
Here we go. Okay, that's what I was looking. Okay, sorry, I didn't.
That's all right. Then the next page changes 120 to 200 and 220.
Another option is we could give Scott authority to make decisions during emergency. I don't know how to define an emergency. I don't know if the law allows that, but that's an option we might want to consider. Any hope for that, Dennis?
Scott?
Yeah, well, the other part
As
of
long
this,
as it's under this threshold or doesn't exceed that threshold, you can put whatever qualification you want.
I was gonna say, the other part of this is going from formal to informal projects. Right, so it is going to a formal bid process where we have to go out as opposed to reaching out to a couple of contractors with the back of the napkin back of the napkin design and saying, hey, can you guys give me a proposal on that? So that's also part of this update. Right, so if you were to go to formal process, we're looking at engineered documents, we're looking at bids.
Formal RFP, yeah.
Yep, exactly. So that's other part of it where you can go in here and use an informal process, and that's all going to be based off of the engineer's estimate, right? If there's a little bit of wiggle room. The engineer's estimate is slightly over the threshold. There's an exemption for that. But that's the other part of it is part of the cost savings for the district is not jumping through formal bid process when informal bid processes are acceptable to the state.
Allison, did you say 15 years? How long has it been?
11?
15 years.
So doesn't money double every 10 years? I mean, let's think about that. If the old numbers are about half of what the new numbers are, right in line with inflation.
15 went to 75. 120 went to 220.
Okay, there you go.
175
And I
went to 220.
and I think
75.
15 went to 75.
It's a blue number and it's crossed out in blue. So the one kind of disappeared and disappeared. Went from 75 to 220. I think
Went from 175 to 220.
I'm not reading it.
Paragraph 3.4 on page 249. 175 went to 220. The big change is going from 15 to 75.
It's a little out of line, isn't it?
Well, it's certainly a different increase percentage wise than the others. The other one, I guess there's really only two levels.
I think there's
15 and there was
Yeah, and I think there's three levels. We have the GM approval, you have the informal, and then the formal. So there's those three levels. I think if you were to go back, I think in 2011, the OVSD board probably upped the informal process numbers and the formal process numbers, but retained the previous GM numbers. I think if you were to go back and track it, I think that those GM numbers at 15,000 probably revert all the way back to unchanged numbers from the UPCCA 96-ish, 90. That's my gut feeling.
I have a feeling you're right about that.
Why don't we just kick it back to committee and take a little bit more time?
I'm okay with that, but I don't know, we haven't scheduled a committee and we've known those for 2 weeks.
Well, good,
And
he'll,
I'm gonna be gone for half of March, so if we want to get this done in a time.
we can also cover ADUs at the same meeting.
Yes, we could. Be a long meeting.
It's starting to sound like that would be a good. Are we allowed to schedule a committee meeting to take this on, Allison, or must we?
We can continue it until it's been deliberated by the ordinance committee.
Would that be the general consensus of the board? Continuance? Let's draw it. What's your feeling? Continue it?
That's their job.
It's their job, okay.
Scott, have these thresholds as they exist now in any way constrained your ability to do any work? Other than, even in terms of timing? Did it at all?
I think Liz was an example.
As a little bit, huh?
Lining.
You know, the lining project and frankly, I think we went for a formal bid. What was the last formal bid? It was the fine screen, was the one? And that would have, I think that value would have fallen into an informal bid process.
So we don't have any that are that close to the threshold. They're usually far exceed what would be formal and informal. We don't run into it too often where we're like, ooh, gosh, if that was higher, that would be better. We're usually quite a bit
We're
different.
on the side of caution too, with like if it's anywhere near the informal bid process, we just go full.
Right.
We'll get there eventually, Scott.
I'm sorry?
Get there eventually.
Thank you.
So it sounds like
Has there been anything in the range between 15 and 75,000 that you had to wait and do an informal bid process instead of just signing it?
What I can think of is more like regular, like maintenance work that is budgeted into like the collection systems operations budget. Might be your foaming, the remove roots is somewhere in the magnitude of $25,000. So that has to go before the board. The adjustments, like a small paving project, we have, well, any size paving project, we have to adjust lids. But the operations budget might be able to absorb the cost of a small paving project and adjust the lids, whereas currently we bring that before the board. That's just a couple of examples. But yeah, if the money is not in the operations budget, we have to present the investment anyways.
sounds like
Projects, it's not really as much of a thing as much as more routine maintenance. I would get.
sounds like the ordinance committee has several points to review, and the consensus on this item is to refer this to the ordinance committee for review and discussion. And I guess that would be the
Bring it back
recommendation.
next month.
Are there any?
The contract, also the wording limits can be change ordered without being presented to the board, I think, as well. So I don't know if that should be part of the conversation.
The post-adoption conversation is how to update our contract accordingly.
If there's issues that you think the ordinance committee should specifically look at, examples or whatever, it might be helpful if we could, Scott, send a little to whoever we elect as chairman so that we know, because we could end up talking about stuff that has no bearing on what you really need to know. So,
I guess the question is, do you want to keep this first reading and eventually adopt it next board meeting, after the committee meets, or do you want to just kind of start the process over? If there's going to be changes, then probably just start over. Those are two options.
Not really a first reading if they make substantial changes. Yeah.
If they make any changes.
Why don't we
I guess I
adopt
can't
it
really
and
notice the
how it
public,
works?
the adoption, if I don't have enough time anyway, depending on when the ordinance committee meets, because I've been noticing that the next couple weeks.
Director Curtis, I'm sorry, did you have a comment?
Yeah, why don't we adopt it and see how it works?
Could do the first reading today. Ordinance committee could meet. If they decide that there's going to be no changes, then you would be on track to do the second reading, but if there are any changes, you're going to have to start.
But wouldn't the ordinance committee have to meet within the next week? Because I have to publish it once a week for 2 weeks. So essentially, I'm at the mercy of deadlines for publication, so I'd only have 1 week.
You could publish it,
Next week.
and then we could have the second hearing and just cancel the whole thing. So it seems like a bit of a wait. Because there's not a ton of urgency on this
The
either.
ordinance committee is a standing committee of a board Brown Act body. So it's a Brown Act body. So it all has to be formally noticed and timely. All that.
So we're not getting a motion to move forward. 14A through C. Yes, I have not heard a motion. Or our direction to staff is to, if I'm hearing this correctly, set a ordinance committee meeting, discuss it, then bring it back, first reading, second. Okay, with that, we'll move on.
I'm ready to meet next week.
You have to, anytime, but she has to notice the meetings, I think.
I'll reach out tomorrow.
It's a 72-hour notice on the meeting.
I can do it anytime next week.
But you said you were going to be gone.
I'll be here
Starting the 6th.
Be here through March 6th, which is.
I'll reach out to you guys and schedule something, and I'll coordinate Denise's schedule because I'm sure you'll.
Pick a time next week. I'll be there.
Thank you.
Thursday
That
afternoon.
concludes item 14. And we are now due information items for seeking and file. Any comments on items 15 through 21?
I just have a question about appraisals report.
Jim, go ahead.
You had all this rain. Did the roof get in place before the rains?
It got it put in place before the president reign, yes. No leaks.
Good timing. 2 weeks, all right, even better.
Okay, thank you. Item 22. Are there any board member comments tonight?
I have one.
Mr. Jim?
I just want to see you folks probably know that years ago I was diagnosed with Parkinson's. I don't have to tell you what the symptoms are because you can see them. So, I'm gonna hang in there. If I ever get to be an embarrassment, it's affecting my voice. Occasionally I get a little forgetful in my train of thought. So if I ever get to be an embarrassment, please let me know.
Sharp to me.
I think we're all pretty flexible and you look okay to me. Yeah, I can see you have a tremor, but so what?
I just want to make sure people know, and Allison, I'm okay. People are always reluctant to talk about medical issues, but I have no problem. People know. So if anybody ever asks, what's wrong with that guy? Just tell them.
Thank you for that.
None of their business.
Question comes up from the public. Can't imagine.
I think we have to compare your forgetfulness to ours, which really isn't a lot. In some cases, or even if we don't have Parkinson's.
That's pretty
Right.
normal.
That's right.
Any other board comments tonight? Otherwise, we have the general manager comments.
Yeah, I want to give a thanks out to the collection system and the treatment plant crews. They had another successful holiday, so it rained cats and dogs again on President's Day. So they're 3 for 4 on holidays from Christmas and Thanksgiving. They missed it was a nice day, but President's Day was pretty rainy and we had no issues reported. Everything held up fine. Want to let the board know that Liz, the treatment plant crew, and myself are going to be working with a group. It's called SoCal Ren and Cascade Energy. It's a firm. It's firms that are funded by our payments that we already make to Southern California Edison, and they're going to work with us to do an energy efficiency audit at the treatment plant. So we'll be meeting down at the treatment plant next week. We'll be conducting what they call a treasure hunt, and the intent is for their crews and our crews to walk through the treatment plant and look for any efficiencies that we may find to try to reduce electrical costs and consumption.
This is not to do with the Tesla batteries then.
No, but that's part of it. We are looking into part of the Tesla batteries. That's part of the can we make it run even more efficiently? Is there better timing? That is certainly part of it. I want to let the board know that the 34th annual AWA Water Symposium is going to be held on April 16th. That's a Thursday after tax day. It's going to be at the former Marriott Courtyard in Oxnard. It's now the Holiday Inn in Oxnard. I'm working with Greg Patterson from Music and Peeler. He's a co-chair with me. We're putting together we have a team where a committee that we're working with. Right now, we have for presentations, the keynote speaker is going to be Shifaje Deshmukh. He is the general manager for Metropolitan Water District. He's going to be the keynote speaker. We have Dr. Ho. Dr. Ho is a professor at CSUN, and he is working with implementing AI, artificial intelligence, in the utility businesses. He's going to be giving a presentation, and we have a lessons learned with GMs from other areas that have similar demographics to the Oxnard and Ventura areas. So that include Watsonville's, some areas out in Coachella, things like that. So set your calendars if you're interested in attending. Thursday, I'll be attending a breakfast with the Ojai Valley Board of Realtors. I'm going to give them a summary of what OVSD does. We'll talk about the PSL program, and I'll answer any questions that they may have. So that's going to be this Thursday. And then looking forward, we're coming into budget season. So we're going to be looking for everyone's participation in both staff and board level in that. And want to let everybody know that summer ops for the treatment plant is going to go into effect on May 1st. That's the day where by rule we go in. Depending on rain forecast and weather forecast, we're looking probably to start implementing that summer run in April 1st. It'll take us about 30-ish days for them to make that transition from the winter time to the summertime. There's some flexibility in that. Lower limits. Lower, more restrictive limits. We will be going into D-night mode. So that's where we'll be adding Micro C, which is a carbon product, to the Dynasand filters to grow more bacteria downstream of our system. So that's, again, we're going to try, we'll look at the weather, but on around April 1st, we'll start making that transition, but we will be up and running by May 1st.
Okay, thank you. Steve, anything?
Just one thing, when you go see the Board of Realtors, you might, I don't know if the question will come up, but Jeff Palmer and I spoke to the Board of Realtors 3 or 4 years ago now, probably something like that. And one of the big questions was what we do with the arbolata. 99% of those bristles still on septic. Remind them that nothing has been done, and the realtors all need to disclose, I think, to potential buyers that nothing has been done, and that at some point in the gradually lessening future, there's going to be some kind of a sewage crisis in the arbolata. It's not going to be an easy fix because the roads are all narrow. roads are all crooked and and by and large, water system runs right down the middle of every road in the Arbolata. And I live near the Arbolata. After there's been a big rain, I can smell it because the septic tanks flow. Sooner or later, somebody is going to declare a public health crisis and force the folks in the Arbolata create a community facility district or something, tax themselves, put in a system, our standards, then feed it to us maintenance. So they need to be reminded that that's coming. Can't tell when. Coming sooner than it used to be coming.
An unpopular presentation. I'm thinking back.
They were not happy hearing about the need to do something about all the septic systems when we spoke to them 3 or 4 years ago. But it hasn't gotten any better. Had those 2 big rainstorms, early 23 and early 24, that gave us some marked flows down Foothill Road, which is the east edge of the Arbolata, where I walk a lot. And we just need to know. And I think it's reasonable to tell them as realtors, they need to disclose that. Individual parcels are on a septic system. The lifetime of that septic system is getting shorter and shorter.
Okay, thank you.
By there.
I'd like to thank the directors for attending. We have 100% attendance tonight, and remote directors, Chair Ulrich, thank you for attending. And Jack, as always, members of the public, thank you for attending. And at this time, our board meeting is coming to an end. Yes, sir. Anything?
Supposed to be going over my appeal.
You were shortly after 6 o'clock, the start of the meeting. I don't know if you want to provide a verbal update or.
Well, I mean, it was opened and closed, decision was made. Just to reopen the.
Yeah. You're Mr. Berryman, correct? Okay. Yeah, the subject came up and was discussed in depth. Decided to support the general manager's original findings in July because of the way the read at that time. I think we held that subject open for a period of months so that you could get information or supporting your approach. But as the legal counsel mentioned, it's been decided and closed. I don't know that there's any further action or you have available.
You made a comment about septic. My system is not, doesn't have anything to do with septic. Existing on the sewer system.
We covered.
Separate topic.
Yeah,
Yes.
covered pretty much in depth, and that was probably around 7:15, 7:20. I'm sorry, 6:15, 6:20, somewhere in there.
So I just missed it.
I think you missed it. We're in, but thank you for coming. We're moving on at this point. Any other comments from the directors?
I'll just make a couple of public comments real quick, just friendly.
Yes, go, yes, please.
Doing so. Steve, glad to hear your comments about the Arbolata, what El Paseo.
You live downhill from it, yeah.
Yes, we did. So it's all gotta get there. We know it. And you see it just like when you go to the ocean. First big rains and you see the bubbly water, see that going down the streets. He was right on with that. So, yeah, we were part of the Lower Arbolata Sewer Group. Our stuff in back around 2005. And, you asked me last time, Steve, what size line we have, and that's 4 inches. I think I said 8. You said, no, it can't be that. Mine's like 2. And I'm like, well, anyway, it's 4 inches.
So, and also, research I've done since then, I did go and take another course from Casita Coalition, ADUs and requirements and things from the state, and learned some more stuff there. Remember the guy that teaches that? He works for San Diego. He's in all the code stuff, and he's helped with some things to the state. Supporting projects and things like that. So, we talked about it, then went back to Homeplex and talked to Ari Gotti about that, and we all kind of came to the same conclusion. It's just that the way it's set up, and correct me if I'm wrong, but you guys went through some battles before. We all know that. It was legal. Holler was here, and the districts were required to write codes. So you guys do code, which all, basically has to be with what service is going to be and how these are going to be adjusted for any new people in the system. So that's basically been approved by the housing department. So basically that's what you go with, correct? Correct so far. So, I mean, that's where it's at. So there's not much else we could do. I'm not happy about it because it is a large fee, even a small ADU project. At this point, I don't think there's anything I can do. So it is what it is. And I thank you guys for your service and for being here tonight. I know it's getting close to my bedtime too. So, and Scott and Allison, you guys have been great. Answer my questions, giving me time, patience, so I appreciate that. Other than that, thank everyone too. Director Ulrich, Curtis also, thanks them for being here. And we'll just move forward. So I just hope if I do call and have questions, you guys will answer my calls. And I expect something from Allison then telling me what I gotta do to get we'll do the 5-year.
No problem.
Okay. We'll be together, we'll make it happen.
Thank you very much for being
You guys.
courteous and understanding.
Yeah, well, it's, like I said, man, I'm pro sewer. We're part of the lower Arbolata thing, and we get the rest of the Arbolata going on something like that, that would be great. And at the same time, maybe we could just move that city line up with the line and annex them in so they can start participating in all the other things on my property tax bill, the street lighting, sidewalks, all these little special assessments that long to work on. It's gonna fall right behind you guys. You guys are gonna blow everything up, and I'm just gonna kind of around the rocks and say, hey, what about this? What about that? Oh yeah, that's peanuts, man. All right, thanks, everybody.
Thank you very much.
Have a good night.
We'll now close the meeting at 7:22. Thank you.
Thanks, Randy, for.
Oh, yeah, of course.